Happy Thanksgiving to all my American viewers, and to all you internationals, happy day to you. Leave a comment of what you're thankful for this year, and I don't know, stick around to the end to see what I'm thankful for. Gosh, what a hook. I am pumped that we got to see both the semifinals and the finals of Level 1. This episode, we're going to break down the races and give some commentary on the DRL. But first, some quick news about the league. Yesterday, Halo Walker started his own YouTube channel. And to that I say, get off my turf, man. This is my website. Just kidding. Instead, can we collab in the future? Maybe. You come on the show, I come on your show. We could do a little collab. Let me know. In other news, the World Drone Pilots Organization hosted the Polish Championship last week, and the league's very own Pavalos took home the gold. It is awesome to see racers achieving victory inside and outside the league. So congrats to you, Pav. Keep it up. Vanover, the DRL's 2019 world champion, recently released his own brand, Vanny Style, that has some great Black Friday sales on their website. I'm curious if he cut ties with Rotor Riot, the brand he has worked with for years, but I love to see racers growing the community and growing their own brands. Speaking of which, Heads Up, the DRL's 2020 and 2021 world champion, also has his own store, Fly533, that had some great Black Friday sales as well, selling specifically drone racing parts. Also, the hat he has in his store is sick, just in case Santa Claus is in fact listening. Heads Up is back in the league again this year, not as a competitor, but as a commentator. In Level 1, you can hear Evan commenting on the races live in the stadium, and it's great to know that he is still impacting the league. Another store I'd like to shout out is Nurx. Nurk, of course, being the 2018 DRL World Champion. I'm seeing a trend here with champions and starting their own brand. Nurk seems to have two stores, however, one at store.nurk.tv and the other at paulnurkala.com/shop. They're selling completely different goods, so not sure what's going on there, but I've been wanting to buy this cork bottom mug that he sells, but it's out of stock. It's a perfect stocking stuffer, and Paul won't respond to my DMs about it. So Paul, if you're listening, I want your mug, man. What the heck? And of course, there is the official Drone Racing League store where you can get jerseys and other apparel. Now, this video is not sponsored by any of these stores. I'm simply saying that if you're going to do some holiday shopping for your favorite gear anyway, might as well support the players in the organization that we all love. Getting started on Level 1, Season 7 of the Drone Racing League. This is an IRL event in Silicon Valley, but there was no live audience. It was kind of eerie at times, but we still love a good IRL race. More on that later. Heat 1 begins, and Vanover and Amari have an early midair collision that resulted in Amari crashing and Vanover barely even being affected. Now, obviously, it was an accident, and Vanover even apologized to Amari after the race. He seems like the nicest guy, but the sports fan in me just kind of wants a racer to go straight Will Smith on another racer someday. Just kidding. I don't condone any violence. I like to see some good competition, but I definitely don't condone any violence. Hearing Heads Up do the live play-by-play commentary was really neat. He's as good at that as he is at racing, so I'd love to go to an IRL sometime later this season and hear him for myself.
Heat 1, Semifinals.
In Heat 1, Maverick was flying really well to start, but Vanny passed up Maverick in the Split S. It seems that is one of the most passable obstacles on the course. During the whole level, this was the make or break part of the course for most heats.
Heat 2, Semifinals.
MCK had one of the funniest false starts at the beginning of Heat 2. He just kind of flopped off the podium and he never really seemed to recover after that during the heat. False starts are rough, but if you're going to get the penalty anyway, you've got to take advantage and break away from the pack early to take advantage of that clean air. Vanover won the first heat and the second heat, so there was definitely going to be a sudden death. While the announcers were talking, they said that Maverick has only been flying FPV for 2 years. It is so impressive to see how he's flying against the best in the world with that little experience.
Heat 3. Semifinals.
In the third heat, Vanover goes 3 for 3 and sweeps the semifinals, Group 1, making tension high going into sudden death. Performing well in sudden death could be the difference between 0 and a minimum of 9 points this season at the start of level 1, so it is a huge deal. If you want to know how the point system works, the DRL has updated their website since my rant in the last episode. Much appreciated. For this sudden death, MCK accepted the pressure and led the pack for the entire race. His big celebration at the end was well-deserved and awesome to watch. Although Maverick had a false start for the sudden death, he is a serious contender when he's all warmed up. But he just doesn't seem to be as consistent as the other racers. He needs some more practice to perfect his lines if he's going to get on that podium.
Heat 4. Semifinals.
On to Group 2 of the semifinals, Alex FPV won the first heat, and he looked like he was about to rip his jersey off. He had some amazing lines for his first run of the year and ended up being the fastest lap of the day.
Heat 5. Semifinals.
Halo Walker wins Heat 2, and no one was even close to him. He dominated that race, which was good because he crashed at the very first gate of Heat 3. I wonder how many tube lights they bring to any given race to replace the ones that the pilots destroy when they crash into them. There's obviously more time between the heats than it seems, but seeing the sparks fly and the drone pieces shatter is so worth it.
Heat 6. Semifinals.
Alex comes back to win the third heat, so the second group also went into a sudden death. Gab 707 was the favorite to win, but on the second turn of the race, he crashed. That's 4 races and 4 crashes in a row, which is not like him. Some of them were out of his control with some mid-airs, but it was still very hard to see. In the 7 years that Gab has been in the league, he has never missed an IRL finals until now. An extremely impressive stat, but also really tough way to start the season. Hyper ends up winning the sudden death and gives a good old woohoo. Not exactly living up to his name, but nevertheless, he showed that he has the skills to make it into the finals. So the finals consisted of Vanny, Alex FPV, Halo, Sing Yu, Hyper, and MCK. At the start of the finals, Halo Walker and Vanover get a killer start, but soon into the first lap, they have a small midair. They both recover, but they lose some precious time. Halo ends up recovering really well, but gets second place, and Alex gets first. This heat was just textbook drone racing. A ton of crashes, some recoveries, some sparks flying, and a close finish. You love to see it. In the post-race interview, Alex quoted 2018 world champion Nurk and said he was trying to fly his own race. Now that is the mindset of a champion. So if he continues with that mindset into the season, he's going to do some great things.
Heat 2. Finals.
Vanover started Heat 2 of the finals with a false start. A 2-second penalty is a lot to overcome, but unlike MCK's false start from the semifinals, Vanny takes full advantage and has a huge lead on the rest of the pack. With everyone bunched up behind him, he had so much room and clean air to widen the lead he already had. However, in the end, he finished 1.97 seconds ahead of MCK, giving Minchan the W and a seat in the Golden Heat. Now, just as a reminder, to make it to the Golden Heat, you need either to get a first place in the finals heat or 2 second places. So at this point, MCK and Alex both have made it to the Golden Heat, and Vanover and Halo Walker each have a second place in the books.
Heat 3. Finals.
Heat 3, Vanover gets the dub, and Halo Walker gets second place, bringing 4 pilots into the Golden Heat. Alex FPV, MCK, Vanover, and Halo Walker.
Heat 4. Finals.
In Heat 4, half the pilots crashed themselves, and Singyu is fighting for a spot in the Golden Heat. But he just can't seem to keep up with fellow rookie MCK, and sadly, he doesn't make it.
Heat 5. Finals.
There are 2 races left, and MCK having 2 finals heat wins, he just started looking really confident out there. At Heat 5, Vanover started with another big lead, which is how most of the heats were starting all day long. Halo began to creep up on Vanny. We already know from yesterday's race that Halo was the level 2 champion, so seeing his performance now in level 1 makes his confidence in level 2 make complete sense. Vanover ended up winning the heat, but it came down to the wire for these 2 great pilots. If you want to see my recap on level 2, I will go ahead and put it there and in the description below. That came out last week. Still in Heat 5, Alex was in the running until he had a crash near the end of the race, and you can see his frustration after the race. Again, I don't condone violence. I don't. But it was actually kind of nice seeing some of that competitive spirit coming out of a pilot. I'm sure the producer's heart were racing because for a second there, I thought he was going to chuck his goggles and flip a chair. But that would be bad because we don't condone violence. And we definitely don't want that to happen, right? But Alex keeps his composure, keeps it professional. But as a fan, I think if anyone wants to win it, it's going to be Alex because he shows it the most. He's got the most passion as a pilot.
Heat 6. Finals.
Going into the 6th finals heat, Hyper and Singyu need a first place to get into the Golden Heat. Neither of them had a second place win at this point. They're both extremely talented pilots, but if you're going to go up against guys like Vanover and MCK, you've got to have more than just talent. Singyu started the heat by showing some promise. He was in second for almost the entire race with Vanover just ahead of him. And at this point, Vanover is just racing to keep a 5th pilot out of the Golden Heat. The less competition, the better. But Singyu ends up getting 2nd place, and it's not enough for him to make it into the Golden Heat.
Golden Heat.
Going into the Golden Heat, Vanover had been the most consistent, but all 4 pilots had been having a great night. On the very first turn of the race, there was a midair that took MCK out of the race, leaving Vanny, Halo, and Alex to duke it out, just like Heat 5 in the finals. Vanover led most of the first lap, but it was tight. Right around the end of the first lap, Halo Walker passes him up into first place. Then at the beginning of the second lap, Alex crushes the split S, going through completely backwards and shaving off fractions of a second to jump into first place. At this point, I was holding my breath. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. Alex is in first place. Halo is less than a 1/10 of a second behind him, and Vanover is just a bit behind both of them. It got closer and closer, but they ended the race in that order. Alex screams for joy, and I'm telling you, seeing the juxtaposition of his frustration from Heat 5 and the joy that he got from winning is just good television, man. I want him to keep winning if I get that kind of passion from the podium. I don't want to watch some emotionless athletes, and not that the other racers are. I want to see shirtless J.R. Smith gallivanting the streets for a month after he wins a championship.
Am I wearing no shirt? The Browns win tonight, for sure.
And I know most of the racers are mostly 18 or 19, but I want to see them popping sparkling grape juice and pouring Gatorade on the winners. I want to see the crowds jumping over the stands to pull down the field goal post kind of energy from drone racing, man. And I know for the championship, they will make a bigger deal about it, but to get a podium in the middle of an empty stadium with a few streamers shooting behind them just feels a little lackluster. After such a tight, exhilarating race, too. Props to Alex for matching my energy. What a guy. So here are my thoughts on the night. In the last race, or the next, when they aired level 2 last week, it was an hour long. This stream was an hour and 40, which is way more content. We got to see the point of view of the racers from almost every single heat, and we got to see the semifinals and the finals. The POV shots were awesome, and I doubt they'll get to show that much when they air the races on NBC, so the extra content is very appreciated by the fans. Thank you. I really like that they're showing that more behind-the-scenes-esque footage with the pilot's perspective. The FPV footage is some of my favorite parts of the race. However, my wife can't watch it. She gets pretty motion sick, and I'm sure she's not alone, so I wonder if they could stabilize that footage a little just to make it a bit easier to stomach for some of the viewers. As for the crowdless stadium, I think the DRL needs to pull one out from the COVID-era NBA handbook here and pump some fake crowd sound into the stream. it just feels so empty during the interviews and when they're pulling audio from the race. I think the audio is one of the most underrated parts of drone racing, or any sport for that matter. It affects the players, the viewers, and the whole vibe of the race. The simulator is another great example. Visually, it looks so good, but it's always the audio that kind of pulls me out of it. They need to invest more into audio if they're going to continue to air sim races as official races. Also, in a commercial, they mentioned Project Drone Galaxy. I guess it's a drone racing game in the metaverse. The game hasn't officially been named. You can put in a name suggestion on their Discord. But on the Discord, called DRL Fly to Own, there is very little information on the game. The website describes it as Project Drone Galaxy is a new, massive multiplayer drone racing experience in the metaverse where players compete for NFTs, cryptocurrency, and other rewards. Build your drone and fly to win, battling it out with other players in a high-stakes racing arena, complete with barriers, boosts, and fiercely competitive pilots. Rise through the ranks by earning resources or unique parts with every victory. We'll see. I guess I'll have to do a full review on Project Drone Galaxy. Moving on, in a Google commercial near the end of the broadcast, it talked about allowing fans to see all the detailed analytics of the racers so that they can help build AI and help tell the pilots how to improve their flying. I would love to see those analytics just to, analyze them. If you know where those are posted for the layman non-coders like me, please let me know on Instagram or Twitter at MadPropsPodcast. So, to the DRL. In 1948, the Cleveland Indians won the World Series by defeating the Boston Braves in their first World Series win in 28 years. Joe Gordon led the team in home runs and RBIs that season with 32 homers and 124 RBIs. Every stat from the number of attendees in the ballpark to the number of innings pitched by every pitcher down to the 10th of an inning is available knowledge online from 1948. I can find information just like that dating back over 100 years in some sports. After some digging, I can find who the racers were in 2017 season up, but I still can't find out who the racers were in the inaugural 2016 season of the DRL. Moreover, when I click into one of these past pilots on your site, I get an error code. I want to be able to see stats from years ago, especially for pilots still in the league, i.e. Gab 707. And if there are courses that are repeated year to year, I want to see the stats side by side to see improvements with racers today. If you're going to make the course analytics readily available to programmers and engineers to build out your error circuit, please make these stats and past stats available to us regular fans. That could be an update to your Wikipedia that hasn't been updated since 2020 or your own website. I want to be able to take my son to a race one day, just like my dad used to take me to a ball game. And I want to tell my son, I remember when Heads Up won 2 years in a row with the Racer 4. These Racer 16s are cool, but they just don't make them like they used to. Anyway, I do see that you've changed the locations page on your site under the About page. It no longer links anywhere. It used to go to an Our Races section that you can still get to with a direct link. The latest information on the page was from 2019 and was never updated, so I'm glad you removed the link. Also, I see that you updated the rules and regulations page to reflect the new point system. Thank you. I'm thankful. I don't know, stick around to the end to see what I'm thankful for. Gosh, what a hook. For a league that listens to its fans. Until next time, I'm Jordan Kyle, signing off. Mad Props was written and produced by Jordan Kyle. It's a commentary on the Drone Racing League and has no direct affiliation with the league itself. The intro and outro music was written and produced by Mike Cole. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing. If you have insight, questions, or comments on the league or this episode, feel free to reach out on Instagram or Twitter at MadPropsPodcast. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap.